I'm Leah Lawrence.
And I'm her husband, Mitch Lawrence.
And you are listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast, where I regale my husband with Southern stories of the macabre, the creepy, and the strange.
And I drink.
So what are you drinking tonight, Mitchell?
Our beer this evening is Rico Sauvin, produced and canned at Against the Grain Brewery in Louisville, Kentucky. 9% alcohol by volume. It's a big old boy, Leah. Let's read the can. Brewed with Nelson Sauvin hops, as sexy as Rico himself, this double India Pale Ale has a strong fruity flavor resembling that of fresh crushed Sauvignon Blanc grapes, gooseberries, and passion fruit. Let it be known that Rico is out for one thing, to be inside you. End quote. What I have to say is it is very sweet and strong because of that high alcohol content. You can definitely tell that it's white wine-esque. It's just... I don't like it. It's overly done. Too strong, too sweet, too much like wine. I gave it a 6 out of 10. How do you feel, Leah?
I do not like the copy because no inanimate thing should want to, desire to be inside me. No, thank you. Also, B, I've told you this previously, but it tastes like a rotted Capri Sun, like a Capri Sun you left in the refrigerator at the back that kept getting pushed back. And then one day as a child, you were like, man, I want a Capri Sun. And you found the one lone Capri Sun in the back corner of the drawer in your refrigerator. And you're like, oh, this sounds like a good idea. Yeah. And it turns out it wasn't a good idea. That's what it tastes like.
Yeah, Leah doesn't like it at all. I think it's perfectly doable. It's just not my thing.
I didn't say it was the worst thing ever, but it does taste like a mildly rotted Capri Sun.
It's not great. And I really like Against the Grain stuff, and I can tell that they tried really hard with it. It's just too overly done. It's way too strong. If this was at 7%, I think it would taste a lot better. But it's just too sweet. There's too much sugar in it, and it doesn't have a good flavor to complement all that sugar.
Yeah, so, I'm not a fan, but I always love their cans. Their graphic design department is 10 out of 10.
Yes, very nice. And if you'd like to see that, check it out on YouTube, because the cans are here front and center.
Yep.
So our shot in the dark, we're going to go back 2 episodes and use the Shipwreck Alabama Rum, distilled and bottled by Boogie Bottom Spirits in Perdido, Alabama, 40% alcohol by volume. And again, if you want to hear the full review, that was 2 episodes ago, episode 181. Roll like a crocodile, sing like a bee, and that was supposed to be sting, and I didn't realize it was fucked up until much too late. 9.5 out of 10 on the rum, and that is it, Leah. We are all done with the alcohols.
Huzzah!
So, what are we going to do now?
I guess we're going to roll into our sassy Southern saying of the evening, and you know exactly what the sassy Southern saying is going to be because you're the one who told me to write it down.
It happened last night.
It did.
That's why I can't wait.
So, yeah, we went over to my grandparents' house last night for chili with my brother. Just sort of a little family meal. It was wonderful. The chili was surprisingly very good. Not surprisingly it's never good, but it was especially good yesterday. But my grandmother was telling a story that I'm not sure I exactly followed. It had to do with her being mad and the color mauve.
Yeah, I will tell you exactly what it was.
Okay, go ahead.
We were explaining to her, she doesn't know about Leah's synesthesia. So we were telling Leah about how when she hears certain sounds, especially music, it creates colors in her vision. It creates auras of colors. We were explaining to her how that's pretty rare. People have it, but it's not like a very, very unique thing, and just kind of explaining the concept to her. And then overall got the conversation into colors. And she said she was at a doctor's office, and she said the thing that Leah's about to say. And she said she went into this room where it was just everything was mauve, the color mauve in the room, and it calmed her down. So that's all that she was saying. But go ahead. Yeah,
but how she described her mental state at the time was, I was wound up tighter than a $2 clock.
Yeah. I first of all, I looked at her and I made a face. And then I looked at Leah and I said, write that down.
And I did.
Yeah. And the best part is not the best part, Jesus Christ, but the best part for the situation was her hearing's kind of leaving her as well. So there's no way she heard me tell Leah to write it down.
No, she didn't. But I immediately took my phone out and wrote, wound tighter than a $2 clock.
Yeah.
And so I've looked for comparables online, and most people say that it's wound tighter than a $2 watch is the phrase that most people use. So apparently she's not exactly quoting it correctly, but I also could not find an etymology for it, a reasoning. I'm assuming it's from pocket watches, and maybe cheap pocket watches like you just don't care about, so you wind them up as tight as you can to like get the most time out of them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really understand specifically, but it made me laugh really hard last night.
Yeah.
Just for whatever reason, it was a long rambling story that had more detail than was necessary at all. And she just ended it up with wound tighter than a $2 clock.
Yeah.
And it made me very happy because I know that feeling. Like if you've ever been at work and like people are just shitting on you all day and you're just like, oh my God, this sucks. You get wound tighter than a $2 clock and you just know that feeling. So
And all the mauve colored furniture calmed her down. So
I don't know why mauve calms her down,
unwound her.
but she does actually decorate like her entire bedroom. Like it's got like two tones of sort of mauve. It's like a burgundy and mauve. Their entire bedroom is. So like it makes sense to me that she likes that color and that it would calm her down because she decorates with it all the time. But like,
and if you don't know what that color is, it's like a very pale purple, like almost into light brown territory, kind of like that, like very light red too.
Sort of a burgundy light.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a mix of very light purple, red, and brown all together.
It's really pretty. Like I said, she decorates with it a lot. She has my entire life, so I guess that's her bedroom color because it makes her calm. But
now we know when she gets wound like a $2 clock to
just mauve.
Find some mauve, or just say the word mauve. Maybe that'll work.
Or I should just get a mauve wardrobe so she's super chill.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, it just made me laugh. So being able to like just directly profit from my grandmother's eccentricities is the best. So
yeah, she's what, is she 85 now?
She'll be 85 in May.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's how old she is.
Yeah.
And I don't remember winding clocks. I'm just saying.
They actually do have a clock in the house that you do still have to wind. It was a retirement gift that my grandfather got when he retired. So
he retired in 1920?
No, but it was like in the 80s, and it's this mantle clock, and it has been there my entire life, and it makes this awful chiming noise if you continue to wind it. So they stopped winding it because the chiming was annoying.
And yet, oh my God, y'all, for some reason 2 Christmases ago, Leah got her grandparents, I think it was you that got it, the one of those smart picture frames where you just send the pictures to an email address and it just automatically uploads it to the picture frame.
She loves the thing.
There are so many videos on that thing that you'll just be sitting in the living room talking, and all of a sudden there's a voice out of the corner.
She doesn't hear it,
and she always goes, I don't even pay attention to it. It's like, well, fucking shit, there's a lot of videos on that thing. And it scares the piss out of me. Stop doing this. And she normally sleeps in that room. She sleeps in her chair. How in the world does that not freak her out when she's
She can't hear it for the most part.
Oh my God. I would be terrified.
Yeah, I couldn't handle it I was the person that when we were living over at our previous house, we were so close to the high school's football stadium that I could hear announcers, and I wasn't thinking about it. I haven't been in high school for a long time. So I didn't think about it being a football night, and I heard these voices whispering outside of my house, and it scared the shit out of me. I was ready to call my grandparents. I was ready to call my dad. Like, I was just scared as shit because I was there by myself. And then I like kind of peeked out the window trying to figure out who was outside whispering around my house, and I saw the stadium lights, and I was like, well, fuck, it's the announcers.
In between the stadium and that house, it's just a straight shot of just pasture. Just pasture.
Yeah.
For a few miles, don't get me wrong, but you can hear it carries across that.
Yeah, so it was.
Type area.
I'm that kind of person. Like, I can hear stuff a little too well, so I could not handle that. But whatever.
Yeah. But anyway, her picture frame really pisses me off, and I think she just needs to turn the volume down on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought about just going in there and silencing it.
Yeah.
But your reaction to it made me laugh too hard.
I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hate it. And it needs to just fucking stop.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good gift, by the way, for anybody that they're a little expensive, but if you have someone that like a parent or a grandparent that like has a bunch of like
Digital
children
photos.
that they need updated pictures of. It's great because my cousin's wife can just email pictures of their daughter directly to that frame, and so they get updated pictures of their great granddaughter like all the time, and it's a really cool gift. So just not sponsored, but like any of those brands of those frames is they're really cool. Anyway,
that's it.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
So go ahead and talk.
I am.
About our first story of the evening.
Yeah.
Because we're doing a cryptid.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done a cryptid.
Okay.
It has. And this one's a little goofy and it makes me happy. It's very Mothman-esque. So we're going to go talk about the Houston Batman.
Oh, there's a Batman?
There's a Batman.
Is it a man bat or is it a Batman?
They call it a Batman, but it's also in the era where Batman is starting to actually be a thing, so it's probably the name is taken from the fact that Batman was becoming popular.
Okay.
But anyway, so this also happened pre Point Pleasant Mothman situation, so definitely not stealing from the Point Pleasant story because it happened way before the Point Pleasant stuff happened. So maybe it's the same entity. A lot of really hardcore Mothmanian kind of folks think that it could be the same, entity. But some people just think it's just weird. Anyway, we'll get into it. It's fun.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Go ahead.
So, the Houston Batman. It started in June of 1953. There was a woman, she was just a young housewife. Her name was Hilda Walker, and she was hanging out on the front porch of her house on East 3rd Street in Houston, and she had some neighbors over, just having some drinks on the front porch, sort of hanging out, enjoying the evening, having a conversation. The people that were with her were Judy Meyer and Howard Phillips. And like I said, it was just a peaceful, chill, calm night, and everybody was having, a nice tea at the end of the evening, just having a wind down, talking with friends.
A wind down.
A wind down.
Tighter than a $2 clock.
But anyway, and then they start seeing some weird shit, and they're concerned. So here's a quote from the Hilda woman. Quote, 25 feet away, I saw a huge shadow across the lawn. At first, I thought it was the magnified reflection of a big moth caught in the nearby streetlight. Then the shadow seemed to bounce upward into a pecan tree. We all looked up. That's when we saw it. So shot in the dark.
Oh, goddamn. Okay. All right.
They saw the creature, the Batman. My question for you, sir, is how tall was this Batman?
Oh, come on, Leah.
Was he A, 5.5 feet tall, B, 6.5 feet tall, or C, 7.5 feet tall?
I have absolutely nothing to go on, so I'm going to say B, 6.5 feet.
You're correct. He was, in fact, 6.5 feet tall.
Would you like the shot? Hold on.
Sure. I'll take it.
There we go.
I mean, it's my shot, and you didn't.
Yeah, but last week you didn't drink because you didn't feel good. Fuck you. Drink the shot.
I'm ill.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah. Nothing feels good ever. Isn't that good rum, though?
It is good rum.
Mm-hmm. That Alabama rum. Yeah, it's got a little kick, though.
It does have a kick. It gets into your nose.
Are you washing it down with coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Sunday morning again, y'all. It's not that we're procrastinating, just a lot's happened.
Yeah, there's been a dramatic shuffle of jobs.
Yep.
Over the last couple of weeks.
We're not going to worry about that right now.
Okay.
We will discuss that later. It's not dramatic. Leah got a new job. I got a new job. Moving on.
Yeah, but they heard about my new job. They haven't heard about yours.
Leah got me a job at her company.
It's true, I did.
That's it. That's everything.
And he's making a lot more money than I am.
Doesn't
and I'm
matter. Move on.
A little salty about it.
I have a specialty degree.
Fuck you.
Moving on.
Anyway, yeah, it was 6.5 feet tall.
Leah, you gonna make it? Yeah, it's got some kick. Drink some water instead of coffee. Don't wash down rum with coffee.
Well, I like coffee and rum.
Yeah, but like certain kinds of rum go with coffee.
Yeah, that doesn't go with coffee.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, so what they saw in the tree was sort of a humanoid form. They estimated that it was about 6.5 feet tall. It had bat wings on its back. It had a strange, weird, yellow, glowing kind of aura all around the Batman. The people that saw it just sat there and looked at it. They were all freaked out. But like no one ran, no one screamed. Everybody was just like, what the fuck is that? You know, just sitting on the porch. Yeah. Just flabbergasted.
I think it's a Batman.
They were just, I mean, seriously, they were stunned into silence and they were just sitting there and watching it, trying to process what they were seeing for about 30 seconds. And then they all said that the light, the glowing aura around the Batman started to dim and dim and dim, and it faded out. And as soon as the glow stopped glowing, the entire figure vanished. Like just sort of popped out of existence. And that's when Judy was like, holy shit, something's going wrong. And she starts screaming, like uncontrollably ear-piercing, like hollering. It was a caterwaul. It was a rumpus. She caused a problem.
She raised a ruckus?
She raised a ruckus that night. So, let me go on and quote some more of, this was an interview.
Some more old country songs?
No, this was an interview with her done by a very noted skeptic. What's his buckets? Nick.
I know that one.
Man,
I know the well-known skeptic. What's his bucket?
Look, I could have told you, but that rum kind of hit me. Nick Redfern, that's it. We've talked about him several times before.
Almost Nick What's His Buckets.
Nick What's His Buckets, you know. Whew, that rum is not leaving my tongue, and I hate it. Anyway,
gross.
So here's a quote from her again. Immediately afterwards, we heard a loud swoosh over the housetops across the street. It was like the white flash of a torpedo-shaped object. I've heard so much about flying saucer stories, and I thought all those people were telling the stories were crazy. But now I don't know what to believe. I may be nuts, but I saw it. Whatever it was, I sat there stupefied. I was amazed. And then it goes on, and she's talking again. So we looked across the street and saw a flash of light rise from another tree and take off like a jet. So they're seeing this humanoid bat character. Mm-hmm. He's glowy and he disappears. And then they're also seeing maybe another vehicle, possibly a UFO of some variety, just jet up out of the trees and head off.
So you think Batman's an alien?
It's very possible. I mean, a lot of people think Mothman's an alien or an interdimensional traveler of some variety. It's a thing. But yeah. So the next morning they make a report to the police office. Like there are about, I think 5 people in total end up reporting seeing this creature, entity, whatever it was, Batman. 5 people report seeing Batman to the police, and the police like kind of investigate it, but they also kind of think that these people are fucking with them. So not much happens there. And no one else, like it wasn't a repeated encounter like it was in Point Pleasant. So it's not something that drummed up a ton of, media. It was just this one situation where a couple of folks saw something weird and then like kind of dropped it, because the police didn't want to like make themselves out to be stupid. But anyway, then they also have reports of a very similar thing happening in the 90s. So some employees of the Bel Air Theater in Houston say that they've seen, in the 90s, they said that they were regularly seeing, quote, a gigantic helmeted man crouching on the rooftop across from their theater in downtown Houston. Like I said, and that was in the 90s. So a lot of people think that maybe it's a similar entity, or it could be just a creepy tall guy in a helmet that's being super creepy across the street. I don't know. It was the 90s. Cocaine was a thing.
Could be.
Heroin was a thing.
Cocaine was definitely a thing in the 90s, Leah. But it left after that, shortly after.
Yeah. Just anyway, so like I said, some people think that this was a reemergence of the Houstonian Batman. Some people, once again, think it was just a creep on a rooftop. Who knows? But yeah, that is the story of the Houston Batman. Pretty short, pretty sweet, but I just like the idea of there being a Batman hanging out in the pecan trees, and he's not looking to fuck with anybody. He just likes pecans. You know, that's my personal thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like pecans, though?
Have you ever had pecans fresh off the tree? They are delightful, enlightening.
No, they are. We were talking last night about pies with your grandparents, and your grandfather said his favorite pie is a pecan pie.
See, and I disagree, because that's like a sugar pie topped with pecans.
Yeah, you don't like molasses that much.
I would say I don't like gooey, sweet, like that kind of stuff.
I'm a big fan of molasses.
Yeah, just don't do that for me. And it's not really molasses. There's usually not molasses in that. It's usually corn syrup. But
yeah, but it's, it looks like molasses.
You like the gooey, fudgy, sweet kind of thing. That texture is gross for me. I
like pecan pie as a whole, and as we've discussed many times, I don't normally like pie fillings near as much as a crust of a pie. I love a good pie crust.
Yeah.
But a pecan pie, I will eat as a whole. I enjoy that. Frankly, I will eat a whole pecan pie.
Yeah.
Let's just say what I was trying to say.
I've never had a pecan pie that I didn't think was just texturally bad.
Yeah. Well, you're wrong, but that's okay.
And I mean, I've made pecan pies. I made pecan pie empanadas one time that weren't terrible.
Yeah, those were freaking amazing. Except for the couple you burned.
Yeah, I did almost set the stove on fire that time. But look, I was learning how to deep fry. I apologize.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the Houstonian Batman. How do you feel about the Batman?
I don't know.
I have no personal opinions about the Batman.
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I like Batman in general, but like the comic book, and I've told you how fucking weird Man-Bat is.
Yes.
I mean, anybody who knows anything about Batman will know Man-Bat's just a really strange side character.
Yes.
Villain.
But they have a lot of really fucking bizarre side characters in that universe. So
yes.
There you go.
Yes. Solomon Grundy, not least of the villains.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, that sounds more like a Man-Bat to me. Like someone injected themselves with bat DNA and then killed their wife and terrorized the town.
But what about the glowing aura? Like, why is it glowing?
Because it's got bat DNA in it.
Bats don't glow.
And it creates a nuclear reaction with human blood, and people just fucking glow in the dark, I guess.
I don't think that's how that works, but
I'm pretty
okay.
sure. No, I know what it is. We had a dirty Santa with friends recently, and like by dirty, I mean it was like sex toy themed.
Yes.
And we all went, and one of the things we walked away with was a glow-in-the-dark butt plug. So maybe it's that. Maybe they charged it up, put it in the Batman, and now he's got an aura.
He's just got a bioluminescent butt plug.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I was in that band as well.
Y'all, if you've never done that, a 10 out of 10
Bioluminescent butt plug? No.
No, I'm saying if you've never tried doing like an actually dirty Santa and you've got friends that would participate, it's fucking hilarious. Like the stuff that people showed up with was just ridiculous and hilarious, and laughs were had by all.
And it made me realize that I have looked way too much Reddit porn because I was so desensitized to everything. Like the thing that I got was apparently the big hit of the night. Like it wasn't the one everybody wanted, but it was... People loved how funny it was. And I was like, I see this all the time, y'all. I don't understand. It was one of those butt plugs that has a tail on it.
Yeah.
Like a raccoon tail. And apparently it's made of fox fur and stuff. And people were just like, this is hilarious. I was like, y'all, I see these like 12 times a day.
Yeah, no, but it was actually hilarious. And the guy that got it's going to put it on the back of his Jeep. Made me laugh.
Yeah, I think the reason it was so funny was because it was vacuum sealed. Yeah. It came in and I didn't take it out of the vacuum seal.
It looked like jerky.
Yeah, it did. It looked like butt plug jerky. Which is another band I was in.
Gross. Anyway, I highly recommend that as a party theme if you've never tried it. It was really funny and good times were had by all.
It was great fun.
Maybe don't do it with like a really like uptight group of people because I don't think they would enjoy it. But like if you've got a chill group of friends, like do it. It's really fun. Yeah.
A couple lesbians walked away with a ducky that is interesting.
Yeah.
That they texted about the next morning. They were like, "Yeah,
that one works.
It's nice." We enjoy the duck.
Oh yeah, it was a good time had by all. Let's just leave it at that. But I would recommend that as a party theme.
Yeah, y'all
Anyway.
y'all go out and figure that out. We're gonna take a break in between stories here and figure out. We're gonna charge up our bioluminescent butt plug.
You don't charge it up.
Well, you have to give it sunlight.
Oh, you've got to put it in the sunlight. That's true.
Well, light. You know, it's got to absorb before it gets absorbed. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Stop talking.
As that came out of my mouth, I went, don't say it. It was way too late, though. Way too late. All right, well,
gross.
We're going to take a
Okay.
little break, let the camera charge.
Oh, wait. I didn't say where that was from.
Oh, yeah, do that.
That source was from TexasHillCountry.com, as well as Cryptid Wiki. That's it.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a little break, y'all, and maybe we'll get out the... also, it's got a suction cup, so we can put it on a wall and stuff. Anyway, maybe we'll show you. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's everything. So we'll see you in just a few minutes for us. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome back, everybody. I had me a waffle during the break. Feeling a lot better.
Good.
Yeah. Feel much better than I did. Because I hadn't eaten yet today. So, the sugar was a little low. Leah. I don't have blood sugar problems.
I don't think that would be an issue because of how sweet that fucking beer is, so.
Yeah. Not in that sense, Leah. My blood sugar. Forget it. Move on.
Okay. Well, we're going to be moving on to the great state of Virginia. We're going to be talking about the poisoning death of George Weith.
Oh.
Yeah. So this one is something that I have actually mentioned on the podcast before. We had talked about his house and how it was haunted by a wife that died in that house before he moved to Richmond. He was previously he lived for a long time in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to be talking about how this dude's life ended. And like I said, I mentioned it previously in that episode. So you should know the answer to, well, not really the answer, but anyway, you should know a little bit about this, but you won't because you don't remember.
I won't.
So anyway, I just decided that I wanted to go a little bit more in depth into sort of what happened, how he was killed, and sort of
Steve,
the story behind all of that. So let's do it. Okay.
Okay.
So George Weith, if you do not know, was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. He was a very prominent attorney at the time. He served in the House of Burgesses. He served in the Virginia Convention. He was a delegate to the Second Continental Congress. He was a signer of the Declaration. He was also the very first professor of law at the College of William and Mary, and that made him the first law professor in America, and also the second law professor in just the English-speaking world. So he was one of the first, so that's cool. And like I said, he also served as a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. So this guy was really influential in the forming and foundation of the United States as it exists today, for better or worse. Y'all can make that particular decision, but we're going to be talking a little bit more about him and how he ended up being murdered.
For the record, I think it's absolutely perfect. There are just way too many liberals around. Am I right?
Okay.
It's perfect except for the people that drink baby blood. Right?
Who's drinking baby blood?
The liberals.
Where do you get
Democrats.
baby blood?
Adrenochrome. It keeps them young, youthful,
Can
vibrant.
I get some of that shit? Come on.
Leah, this is a problem. We're going to get a divorce.
Look, I'm
because
starting to get the forehead wrinkles. I need some of that baby blood.
You don't know about adrenochrome?
I'm afraid I don't. I missed that one.
It's this whole thing. Only babies create it. So you have to suck it out of the baby.
Ew.
Yeah.
Then you would have to have a bunch of babies to suck it out of.
Yeah, that's why the population's decreasing, Leah, because we're just killing all the babies for their adrenochrome. Leah, I'm not going to get into this.
I feel like people are...
I'm not going to get into this.
I feel
Leah?
like the population's decreasing because the world's a
Leah.
trash dumpster fire.
Leah, I'm not going to get into this. QAnon will tell you everything that you need to know. I'm very surprised you don't know all of this.
See, I purposefully steer away from that type of conspiracy theory because those people are fucking crazy and I cannot. Other conspiracy theories when it comes to like Mothman and shit we could talk about because that's fun and it's not doing physical harm to anybody. But once you start like, I don't know, starting coups over shit like that's like just blatantly
threatening
false.
A pizza place at gunpoint because they're the adrenochrome harvester.
Yeah, I draw the line at that personally.
But that's what happened, right?
Yeah,
with the Comet
I'm
ping pong
aware.
Thing?
Yeah,
because they don't even have a basement, but their basement was being used to store children for Hollywood elites.
Look, I wouldn't store children if you fucking paid me, so don't sign me up for that part of the liberal conspiracy.
Leah, they're not treating them well.
I don't care. Just being in the same room with too many of them like really sets me off. One or two at a time is fine, but like when you get like a whole birthday party's worth, absolutely not.
Oh my God, we need to get back to the story. I am so sorry.
You started this shit, not my fault.
I did. I'm sorry. Please.
Okay, well, let's talk about the poisoning of George Weith. Okay. So, like I said before, we got super derailed. He was really foundational in a lot of the, policies and stuff that happened during the revolution. He was also very famously the law tutor of another founding father. So, shot in the dark.
Okay.
Weith tutored another founding father-in-law as a young man. So my question is, who was it? Was it A, Alexander Hamilton, B, Thomas Jefferson, or C, John Hancock?
Oh man, you'd think I would know everything about Alexander Hamilton about the after seeing the musical.
Because that was 100% factual.
Yeah, it was.
The songs and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the choreography.
I'm going to say, because I know nothing about him, John Hancock.
You're incorrect. It was Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, that's upsetting.
Yeah. So you have to take that nasty shot.
It's not nasty.
It's just a lot, though, and you shouldn't chase it with coffee.
10:30 in the morning. That's all. So, no.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm gonna do it. Just
okay.
Fuck off.
I would say you seem to be.
Stop watching me. I'm vamping. Go.
Okay. So he was, like I said, the tutor of a young Thomas Jefferson. He taught him law, and apparently Thomas Jefferson was really close to and a big fan of this guy, and that they were very close and remained close through the entirety of George Weith's life. In 1789, Weith retired from teaching, moved to Williams. He retired from teaching because his wife died. He was, upset about that. And he ends up moving from Williamsburg to Richmond. And so he ends up setting up house at the corner of 5th and Grace Streets, which I don't really know anything about Richmond, so I couldn't tell you where that is. But
oh, that's rough.
He lived there. He had a maid named Lydia Broadnax. So she was previously a slave that had belonged to his wife. And after his wife died, he manumitted her, which I didn't know that word, but I know it now. And manumission means that basically they legally free them by contract, as opposed to emancipation where the law changes and everybody's freed at once. Manumission is what happens when someone chooses to, legally create the documents to make them free.
Isn't that nice? That's pretty nice.
There's a lot of weird shit about Weith because he comes from a long line of Quakers, and Quakers did not believe in any sort of slavery whatsoever. And throughout his career, he really tried to push legislation that moved the entire area into being a free area, a free state. He wanted the United States to end up being, anti-slavery.
Oh, God.
But he also, kept slaves and sold them. And while he did manumit several of his personal servants, slaves that he kept on and hired as servants that he paid. Like I said, a lot of his dealings with that are just kind of iffy.
He's playing both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
he's what they call. Oh my God, what am I?
Hypocritical?
No, I wasn't going to say hypocritical. I was going to say like when you're outwardly doing something, but you're actually just doing basically the complete opposite. Hypocritical, yes, but there's a word for it now in our he was identifying, like identity politics is a big thing involved. Forget it, Leah. Okay. I am very confused. This shot has thrown me off my game. He's a hypocrite. Move on.
Okay. So he manumitted Lydia Broadnax, and he he offered her employment, and she took it, and as his personal maid. And so they moved together from Williamsburg to Richmond. Now, a lot of people historically, like looking back on it, people are like, oh, was it kind of like a Sally Hemings situation with Thomas Jefferson where he was like physically involved with Lydia? And most people believe, just because of her age and the lack of like gossip about it, because anybody that carried on with their enslaved people like that, there was tons of like extant gossip about them, and there was never any kind of gossip about this, that they don't believe that was the case, but you never fucking know. But yeah, so he lived with Lydia, working as his personal maid, and they moved into Richmond there. Eventually, she earned enough by 1797. She bought her own home, so that was cool. I
didn't know women could own property.
What?
Back then? I didn't know women could own property.
Yeah, I mean, if you could pay for it, lots of women own property.
It's surprising to me.
Yep.
Where my country gone, Leah?
So
I can't believe we allowed that.
There was also a free black man named Michael Brown. They say he was born around 1790, and he also lived in the Weith household. Ended up living with Lydia as well after she, got her own home. In most of the stuff that I see, he's listed as, quote, mulatto, which I believe is just like mixed race, white and black.
No, mulatto is Latino and black.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
So he was mixed race of some variety, whether that means white and black or anything else. But he was a mixed race man, but he was free and wasn't one of the people that he manumitted. He was just had been born free. And Weith took a liking to him, and he started teaching him Greek and Latin, was sort of instructing him in the law.
I want to correct myself.
Go ahead.
It is white and black.
Okay.
It's a derogatory term.
Yes.
I knew, but
that's why
I legitimately thought that it was a person of Southern American descent, like Central American descent, and a black person. I really thought that, but
there's so many different like awful terms for just very specific, like, yeah, it's, I know a lot of those words are just real bad. It
is. I don't know if it originally was, but it definitely in the last couple hundred years has become derogatory. So a derogatory term. I seriously thought it was Latino and black mixed, but I am completely wrong. Yeah. So,
once again, anyway.
At least according to Google, and you can't trust Google.
Well, I mean, and it really doesn't matter in the time period what he was mixed with. The fact that he was mixed made him a second class
citizen. I should DuckDuckGo it instead of Googling it.
Okay.
Because they don't have outside influence, Leah. They don't have political influence, the DuckDuckGo engine. I need to stop or people are going to start believing me. I just need to cut it out. Go ahead.
Yeah, you do.
I'm having fun, but
not everybody listens to all of our podcasts, sir. We need them to know that you're not fucking crazy.
I can't help that.
Okay.
I am crazy.
Cool. Can you knock it down for just a second so we can finish the story?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Love you. Anyway, so this guy, regardless of the percentages of his ancestry, he was, like I said, taken in by Weith. He was being taught the law by him, and he was, a part of the household. And he even put that guy in his will, and so he could, continue learning after Weith died. And also in 1797, Weith also purchased and manumitted an adult enslaved man named Benjamin, who he employed as sort of like a groom or whatever, just another household servant that also lived in the household. So by 1805, he was hanging out really well established in Richmond. He had his personal servants and was teaching the other guy and was just having a sort of chill end of life. But in 1805, his grand nephew, I believe, so it was the grandson of his sister. His name was George Weith Sweeney Jr. He had kind of fallen on hard times. He was a bad gambler and had a lot of he had a lot of debts, and he was not being well treated by the rest of his family because he had fucked him over one too many times. And George was like, man, I guess I'll take you in because like you're family and you need a place to go. So like I'll do what I can to make sure that we can get you back on your feet. So he moves in to the family. He is in George's will, because George has no remaining family. He never had children. Both of his wives are dead. Like he'd never had them together. Like one wife died, married another.
Well,
second
that's
wife
upsetting.
Died. Yeah,
you got to hedge your bets.
Yeah,
that's why he was such a bad gambler. He didn't hedge his bets,
I guess. Excuse me. So he took George Sweeney in, and just tried to help him out, basically. Unfortunately, didn't go so well. So George Weith discovers that I'm just going to call him Sweeney because there's too many Georges up in this bitch. So George Sweeney's the grandnephew, and George Weith is the guy we're talking about. Okay. So eventually, George Weith ends up realizing that the Sweeney kid is stealing expensive shit out of his home and selling it to pay back his gambling debts. He's been taking law books, books of any variety, and pawning them. And books at that time were, more expensive and very, precious. And it pissed him off a little bit. And he realized that he had been doing that, and he was gonna confront him about this, theft of property. And not only had he started doing that, Sweeney had also started to cash fraudulent checks at the Bank of Virginia. So he would steal the checks from George Weith and forge his signature, and he was attempting to cash $100 checks. And once again, this is like 1806.
Yeah,
$100 is a fucking lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And so he's been caught forging and attempting to cash these particular checks. And eventually, the teller at the bank realizes that, hey, this really isn't the correct signature. This is not, you've been coming in with a lot of these. This is weird. And the teller ends up contacting the police. And eventually they recall 6 checks that were forged by this guy for $100 each. So he's trying to rob his great uncle blind, basically. And an officer ends up arresting Sweeney at George Weith's home on May the 28th. He ends up confiscating a knife. They pat him down. All of that shit, and basically they realize that this guy's a bad guy and they take him to jail. But turns out he had already fucked some shit up before this particular situation happened. So the officer has confiscated his knife, pats him down. The officer testified that he felt paper parcels wrapped in his pockets, but he didn't confiscate them, and he just jailed the guy. And then the jailer, the jailer realizes that there were paper wrapped packages of arsenic that had been tossed in the garden adjacent to the jail cell where
that's fucked up.
Yeah, where Sweeney was hanging out. And other people testified that he had been asking about poison. And so why would people be really concerned that this guy has a lot of poison on him?
Well, because he poisoned people.
Yeah.
Fucking shit.
Because on May the 24th of 1806, George Weith sits down to eat like breakfast. It was milk and strawberries. That was like just his breakfast.
So like berries and cream?
Berries
kinda?
and cream. Yeah, that's what he was having. He was a young lad who loved berries and cream.
Yeah. I'm a little boy. Also love berries and cream, Leah.
Yeah. So he was eating a bowl of berries and cream. Also, the everybody else was eating the same food. Like he fed his servants the same food. They all ate together, kind of stuff. And eventually, everybody gets really violently ill. So Mr. Brown, Lydia Broadnax, George Weith, everybody gets violently sick. And so they realize, they put two and two together, oh shit, Sweeney has poisoned all of these people with arsenic. Because eventually George Weith's doctors, like, maybe you all have cholera. But it wasn't cholera. It was fucking arsenic. So on June the 1st, after the poisoning, so it took several days, but he died in agony. Michael Brown, the freed black man that was living in the household. On July the 1st, he died. George Weith was still very, very ill, and so was Lydia. So he requested that he had a friend, Edmund Randolph, who was the Attorney General. Well, he was previously an attorney general. I think he was the governor of Virginia at that point. But he had him just draft up an amendment to his will, completely disinheriting George Sweeney because, he had murdered him, or, he was pretty sure that he was going to die. So he was trying to disinherit this kid immediately before he was killed by the poison. Mm-hmm. And so he disinherited that kid, made sure that all of his siblings were the ones that were going to get all of the money. And he also brought in police officers and some doctors and had them search George Sweeney's room and his trunk. They discovered a similar kind of paper that was found with the, wrapped, that the arsenic had been wrapped in. Yeah. And the doctors also found more strawberries that looked like they had been treated with an arsenic and sulfur soak, which is probably how the arsenic got in their systems in the first place. And Weith told his doctor's name was Samuel McCraw, said, "Cut me," which he understood to believe that he needed an autopsy after he died. Because
I was going to say it sounded a little sexual.
No, it was like, hey, after I die, perform an autopsy, make sure that, pretty sure I got poisoned.
Just the way that you said it. He was like, cut me. I was like,
no, it's not. Shit. It's not like a fun cut me. It's I
want to hurt.
Not that I think a cut me is good. Please don't cut me.
I want to hurt.
But yeah, he was requesting an autopsy, as far as everybody could tell. He was in this the throes of agonizing death from arsenic, so he could only do a couple words, Mm-hmm. So anyway,
poisoning's terrible, y'all. If you're ever going to kill someone, don't poison them. Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah,
do it humanely.
So the next day, Sweeney ends up appearing before the Richmond Hustings Court. I don't really know what that is, but it's like a preliminary court from what I could tell. And he was charged on forgery charges. The court was composed of half the members of the Richmond City Council and the mayor, and they had the power of jurisdiction. It was like a county court, and if they found enough evidence to convict him, it would go to the district court, and that would be the court that actually convicted him and sentenced him and stuff. So they found enough evidence that they could continue to charge him in real court, and he was held on a $1,000 bond, which was a fuck ton. And Sweeney ends up writing to the dying George Weith asking for bail money, and Weith was like, "Fuck you, absolutely not, sir." And a few days later, on June the 8th, Weith ends up succumbing to the arsenic poisoning, and he died. And on that day, he wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson, who was the president at the time, saying that he had been murdered. He didn't mention who murdered him, but he just says, I have been burnt, or I am murdered, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So a little dramatic, George. I'm just saying. Just sending your old pal, the president, just, I am murdered. Okay, cool, man. But anyway, they open him up, they perform the autopsy, and the state of his internal organs was very consistent with arsenic poisoning. At the time, there was a definitive test for arsenic available. They just didn't do it, which is weird. Very strange. I'm not sure why you wouldn't go ahead and do the test if it was readily available at the time, but they didn't do it. But all of the doctors that were there and present said that it was really consistent with arsenic poisoning. And, everybody pretty much knows that his grandnephew is the one who ends up, murdering him. So eventually Sweeney has to appear before the court again on June the 23rd. This time he's charged with murdering Michael Brown and murdering George Weith. He was also arrested as well, or indicted as well, for the forgery charges. So during the course of this trial, 14 white men testified against him, including his jailer, the arresting officers, several doctors, some friends of Sweeney, who they said he had asked about poison, Edmund Randolph, William Duvall, everybody involved testified against this guy. And the court found him guilty and ordered him to stand trial before the district court. So they've pushed even the murder charges and the forgery charges onto this grand jury. And so, weirdly though, two of his friends decide, we don't think he's that guilty. And so his friends, Edmund Randolph and William Wirt, who were both attorneys themselves, decided to defend him. And apparently they were pretty good at lawyering.
Are there levels of guiltiness? Levels of guilt?
I mean, not when it comes to arsenic poisoning. I really don't think so, but okay.
No. Well, no, I just mean in general. Levels of guilt, not guiltiness. I don't think that's a word. But I think that's more of a black and white issue.
Not necessarily. I really do think there are levels to that, but I don't want to get into it.
You can be guilty of one thing and not another within the same vein of things, I guess. So maybe that's a level, but I don't know. Looks like your computer's about to die. We better hurry this up. All right.
Chop.
No, not another word. Go.
Thank you. Okay. So, so they decided that maybe he wasn't that guilty. And so they talked to a doctor and they basically wheedle him into saying that it could just be that he had some digestive issues, and then maybe it wasn't the poison. Yep. It could have just been he had stomach ulcers or something, and that killed him.
I don't know about y'all. But, that chili I had at Leah's grandparents last night, it felt like my stomach was disintegrating this morning. So I understand.
I feel like arsenic poisoning is a little bit more intense than that.
It's more like a gluten allergy.
And also, it's that has no... even if he had a stomach problem, it has nothing to do with the fact that it also made the other two people in the household violently ill.
He was contagious.
Okay. So anyway, eventually they hear this case and they basically use a few loopholes in the law to try to find him not guilty of murdering Weith. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that Lydia was not able to testify, nor were any of the other black people that were involved. Some of the people at the jail were enslaved black people that worked for the county or whatever. Specifically, they didn't let Lydia testify, and she was one of the ones that was violently ill and saw all of the shit that happened. And a lot of people believe that because they did not, it was Virginia law at the time that did not allow, black people, free or enslaved, to testify against white people. And so a lot of that had to do with why he was able to go. So they did not find him guilty of murdering Weith. And because they did not get a conviction in the case of, him murdering George Weith, they just sort of let the Michael Brown case go without a trial, because if we can't convict him of murdering the white guy, we're certainly not going to get a conviction of him murdering the black man. So that whole situation just sort of disappeared, and he didn't have to worry about it. And then they did try to convict him on those forgery charges, and he was convicted on 2 of the forgery charges. But his lawyers, once again, were apparently really good. He was sentenced for the forgery cases. He was sentenced on 2 of the 4 counts, and he was sentenced to spend an hour in the public pillory and 6 months in prison. But the lawyers asked the judge to not carry out the sentence because the wording of the law was a little bit weird, and it prohibited illegal acts like a forgery committed against like an individual person, but not against a bank or an institution. So he got off scot-free for murdering 2 people and stealing all of that money. And so they decided that they were not going to continue to press any further charges against this guy, and they let him fucking walk free. After that happened, they did in fact pass another law that secured all the loopholes against committing fraud against banks and public institutions as well. So I guess that's good. But yeah, the guy that murdered a signer of the Declaration of Independence, just walked away. It was fun. He walked away.
I mean,
yeah.
If you can do it.
Nice work if you can get it, I suppose. But yeah, eventually he ends up fleeing to Tennessee. And in Tennessee, he got convicted of stealing a horse. And then he kind of falls off the historical record at that point. No one really knows what happened to him after those charges.
You said he fell off a horse?
No, he stole a horse.
Oh,
he got convicted of stealing a horse.
I don't know what the fuck we were talking about for a second.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what happened to George Weith. And most of that information came from the Encyclopedia of Virginia. And that was a fun little read. Yeah. So yeah. George Weith, man.
That was crazy.
Got murdered by by arsenic by his own grandnephew who he was trying to help.
Well, I mean, Leah, some people just don't want help. They just want the money.
Yeah, they don't want help. They just want to keep gambling.
There was you may have heard about it already, but I watched that channel on YouTube called That Chapter with that Irish guy. If y'all don't know that channel, it's a great true crime channel.
I just like listening to the way he says numbers.
Most people do. Most people love the way he talks because he's Irish. And there was a story recently just talking about people who don't want to accept help that I didn't know about that was part of the pandemic recently, where a guy who was 20, he was in his mid to late 20s, and he was living with his parents, and his parents were helping him, and he lied to the point that he eventually killed his parents because he was lying so much to where he...
How did he kill them?
Gruesomely. Very gruesomely. Yeah, I'll show you the video after this, but he was lying about having a job and attending college and having these other things, and he just sat at home all day.
Oh, I've seen several. There's there's a female version of that one too. I've heard that story.
But this was pandemic related.
Yeah,
this was
I would
recent.
say that's recent.
Yeah.
There's an older one that a girl did a very similar thing. But
so what happened? What eventually happened was his parents were supporting him the whole way through, but they found out that he was lying, and his dad was like, "Okay, we have an appointment at the college to go speak to these people so I can find out if you're taking classes or not." And he killed them before they went. That was essentially it. So the parents were really trying to help him, that sort of thing. And he was very mentally unstable as well. But, it's a really interesting story. Just saying.
Okay, well,
I loved it. Watch That Chapter on YouTube. Also not a sponsor.
Where'd it happen?
I think Wisconsin.
Damn.
I think that's right.
Guess we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we could. That was the whole story right there.
Oh, okay. Well, you ruined it. So thanks for that.
That was everything.
Anyway, so how about we go into a good old fashioned toasty toast, and then we'll get going.
Okay, do it.
Okay, everybody hoist your coffee mugs high into the sky. Ew. All right. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's a giant man bat perched in a pecan tree. The monster happily sat.
Okay.
Watch out for family members deep in the red. Keep an eye on your breakfast or you may end up dead. Drink.
Okay. Good job, Leah. I love that you incorporated Superman's intro with Batman.
Yeah.
That was very fun. You're smart.
Yeah.
And enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's everything. That's everything you are.
I'm delicate and radiant too, don't forget.
Yeah, okay.
Fuck you too, sir.
Delicate. Jesus.
Rude.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Do you have anything to add?
No, you're just mean to me and I don't like it.
Thank you, everybody. Send us an email. Join us on social media. Send us a postcard. P.O. Box 1743, Hartselle, Alabama 35640. Anything else? Send us a new cat who won't bite. He got you good.
He did. He just bit the shit out of me. Anyway.
That's fun YouTube content right there.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it.
Okay. Bye, y'all.
Leah.
What?
We will see you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.